Picture Saturday morning in the early 1970s. Kids are glued to the screen, absorbing hours of passive cartoons punctuated by loud, high-energy commercials for sugary cereals and plastic toys. It was a broadcast environment engineered almost entirely for distraction. But tucked between those standard advertisements, a different kind of interruption arrived on the dial. Rather than a hard pitch for a new product, viewers were hit with a deeply sophisticated, syncopated tiras bassline wrapped inside a 3-minute animated short about math. The experiment started with executive David McCall. He noticed a frustrating contradiction in his 11-year-old son's behavior. The boy was completely incapable of memorizing his multiplication tables for school. Yet, if you put on a record, that same kid could effortlessly recite the lyrics to Jimi Hendrix or the Rolling Stones. His memory worked perfectly fine. It just required a specific delivery system. The traditional classroom model relied heavily on rote memorization. Staring at chalkboards and repeating numbers in a sterile environment was losing a direct war for a child's attention against the highly engineered multi-sensory stimulation of television. McCall realized that fighting the broadcast format was a losing battle. If he wanted to embed mathematical concepts into a kid's brain, he needed to stop treating education like a textbook and start packaging it exactly like a commercial hit. He hired Bob Dorough, an accomplished jazz pianist who had collaborated with icons like Miles Davis. McCall gave him a simple mandate: set the multiplication tables to rock music, but whatever you do, do not write down to the children. Dorough spent weeks refusing to write a single note. Instead, he researched the decimal system, studied the prevailing new math curriculum, and even dug into esoteric texts to understand the historical and structural properties of specific numbers. He applied all of that research to the number 3. Looking at this geometric breakdown, we see how 3 operates logically, scaling upward from a simple triangle into a complete rhythmic multiplication table. When Dorough delivered the song, 3 is a magic number, the advertising team immediately recognized its utility. Art director Tom Yohei sat at his kitchen table and sketched out visual storyboards to match the lyrics, while colleague George Newall helped shepherd the production. They pitched the concept to ABC. Michael Eisner, who was running children's programming at the time, saw the animated short and bought the series almost instantly. Premiering in 1973, Multiplication Rock successfully weaponized the commercial break. By compressing abstract mathematics into a tight, 3-minute multi-sensory song, the network sneaked rigorous education past a child's natural defenses. The initial experiment quickly scaled. After math came Grammar Rock, followed by America Rock to coincide with the bicentennial, and eventually Science Rock. Even as the scope widened, the creators maintained strict quality control over the sound. Instead of relying on simplistic, repetitive children's jingles, they anchored the entire franchise in complex, authentic jazz composition. They packed Los Angeles recording studios with serious musical talent. The production enlisted celebrated trumpeter Jack Sheldon, whose distinct, gravelly vocals became a cornerstone of the series. Heavyweights like pianist Babe Frischberg contributed as well. Because the music featured rich harmonies and swinging rhythms, it actively appealed to parents, creating an environment where adults and children watched and learned together. The music was highly functional. The first pedagogical tactic involved mapping specific repeating auditory cues directly onto mathematical patterns, turning abstract times tables into predictable physical beats. The second tactic solved the problem of grammar by turning abstract rules into tangible visual metaphors, like a railway junction hooking up words, phrases, and clauses, giving kids a physical model for sentence structure. The third tactic tackled civics, reframing the dry, bureaucratic legislative labyrinth as an underdog story about a lonely bill hoping to become a law. When you combine sticky rhythms, clear visual metaphors, and a character-driven narrative, the result is a highly efficient retention device. The human brain simply holds on to a melody and a story far better than a static page of text. However, compressing complex subjects into a 3-minute window inherently creates structural limitations. Taking a bill through Congress in a few stanzas means you have to omit the realities of severe political gridlock, intense backroom lobbying, and the true power dynamics between the House and the Senate. Similarly, the America Rock segments leaned heavily on the sanitized, overly simplified historical narratives that dominated the 1970s curriculum, leaving out significant nuance regarding the country's founding and expansion. There is a distinct difference between making a topic highly memorable and making it factually comprehensive. A catchy musical hook is a highly effective delivery system, but it simply cannot replace rigorous, deep study. But the creators understood this boundary. The series was never designed to act as the final textbook authority. It was a carefully engineered gateway, built solely to spark a child's curiosity so they would actively seek out the rest of the details. ABC pulled the original series from the air in 1985, but its utility was too high to fade away. It immediately migrated into physical classrooms, played on rolling televisions by teachers desperate for engaging material. A decade later, the independent label Kid Rhino released the complete audio tracks as a CD box set. Parents who had grown up with the cartoons started playing them in the car, passing the music down to a second, younger generation. Soon, the music permeated deeper into pop culture. Hip-hop pioneers like De La Soul sampled the series for their hit records, while alternative rock bands recorded entire tribute albums, cementing the jazz compositions as legitimately cool. The ultimate institutional validation arrived in 2018. The Library of Congress formally inducted the Schoolhouse Rock box set into the National Recording Registry, recognizing its permanent cultural significance. Today, kids navigate an endless feed of algorithmically generated, infinitely scrolling media designed solely to maximize engagement and watch time. The fact that 50-year-old cartoons about conjunctions and prepositions still resonate shows us exactly what happens when media is carefully, purposefully constructed. The show's 5-decade lifespan serves as evidence that a precisely engineered musical loop can keep academic concepts accessible to the memory for a lifetime. Schoolhouse Rock remains a fixture of American education because its creators respected their audience's intelligence. They refused to condescend, trusting that if they provided a sophisticated musical hook, the educational substance would stick.